Hey, this is Jeffrey Reed. Thanks so much for checking this out this week, A Principled Principle. Today we're going to talk about 3 foundational things, the things every parent wants for the kids, but it's not what you think. So in the years of meeting with parents and leading conferences and sort of counseling folks in the ministry that I do, I've run across 3 common threads among many. Parents want so many things for their kids, among others, but there seem to be 3 that settle, at least among culture, and these are true for the most part historically. When you ask parents what they want for their kids, they want them to be well-rounded, they want them to be well-educated, and they want them to be career-minded. And that sounds great. I actually wanted that for my kids to an extent. But my wife and I realized as we were raising them that we were putting pressure on them that not only they really didn't deserve, but pressure that was not really warranted. I mean, we're pressuring them to do or become things that really are not what God had called them to be. And so in the process of being the principal of a school and leading other families and students and even my own kids, I've learned these 3 things, that those 3 things, though they sound great, are not what we think. And I'll unpack each one of these in a separate podcast in the future. They each deserve really their own attention, but I want to go over them real quickly. They're all going to resonate with you. You've probably already go, yeah, I want my kids to be well-rounded. I want them to, I want them to know a little bit about everything. I want them to be well-educated in all, math and science and art and English and music and culture and politics and all of this. And I want them to be career-minded because I don't want them to live in my basement for 30 years. Now, I want them to have a job. I want them to find a good job that they like. So I want them to focus on their career, maybe even starting them a little earlier than they used to, which we do. I ask kids in the 1st grade what they want to be when they grow up. Of course, not everybody can be an astronaut, but we do try to aim them in that direction. So those 3 things seem valuable. But if you really dig deep, you'll find out those are really 3 patterns that the culture throws at us, that it throws at our families, us as parents. We're pressured to bring these things out of our children, and they are not necessarily the things that are best for them. So I want to go over these 3 things really briefly again. And the first one is well-rounded. And well-rounded asks the question, how am I shaped by culture? Culture shapes us all the time. Laws shape us. We're supposed to act and behave a certain way. And so to an extent, we're shaped by culture. But if you're a Christian, you're called to not be shaped by culture. You're called actually to be in the world, not be afraid of it, but to live in the world, but not to be of it. There's a school thing for you, math versus multiplication. We're not supposed to be of the world. It's not supposed to come into us and sort of multiply things in us. That's not who we are. We're to be in it, which means we're in addition to the world, but we're not in it to make it part of us. And so that question that we often ask is, how does the world shape us, is not the proper question. So instead of kids being well-rounded, we actually want them to be laser focused, because the interesting thing about being well-rounded is actually you don't have any sharp edges. Being well-rounded by culture kind of dumbs down, in a sense, some of the things we're called to be. We've sort of made to fit into a mold, and that's not what God has called us to be. He's called us to sort of break the mold, in a sense, to shatter ceilings with faith, hope, and love, the things that sort of represent who we are. And so we don't want our kids to be well-rounded. We actually want them to be laser focused. So instead of asking the question, how does culture shape us, we want to ask this question, and we challenge our kids with this: how can we shape culture? And there's the difference. Not well-rounded, but laser focused. And the second thing is this: well-educated. Now, I'm an educator. My wife's an educator. We have many in our families. We've gone back years in both the public school system and the private school system. We have a lot of experience. And one of the things we really try to do is to educate our kids. And that's when they're asked the question, what do you know? When they take a test or when they graduate, colleges want to find out what they know if they're interviewing for a career. What do you know? A well-educated person can tell you what they know. But that's actually not our focus, or at least it is at first, but then we want to take them to another level. We don't just want to educate them, we want to equip them. Do you want your kids to be well-educated or well-equipped? Because there is a difference. See, education involves knowledge, but equipping them takes that knowledge and turns it into wisdom. And wisdom is how we use our knowledge for the world and for God in the world. That's wisdom. Knowledge is really worthless, and actually knowledge can be dangerous. Knowledge has done incredibly bad things throughout history. And so wisdom gives you the ability to take that knowledge and do good with it. So that we really want our kids to be well educated, but we really, if we truly go deeper, we want them to be well equipped. So instead of asking the question, what do you know? We ask the question, how can you use what you know for God? And then the third thing is this: as parents, I probably started too early. I wanted my kids to be career-minded. Well, my first grader didn't take too well to that, and we've always, wanted to push our kids, but not too much. Well, there's a problem with that, because our career is not the end all to our life. You can have the most amazing career. You can talk to people even that have had careers and retired, and what you'll find most of the time, if they didn't have a deeper purpose, they didn't find fulfillment, even in retirement, even when they were done with the work. Because we don't want to teach our kids just to be career-minded. We actually want to have, maybe they give attention to that in the background, but what's more important is that they be kingdom-minded. See, if you're career-minded, you ask the question, what am I going to do with my life? And if you're kingdom-minded, you ask the question, what is God going to do in me in this life? And there's a big difference. And so this year, as I lead our school here in New York City, and you have kids at home, and you may actually be somewhere else in other parts of the country, I would encourage you as a parent to really look at the core values, the core principles that guide how you raise your kids. Are you putting the wrong kinds of pressure on them, or are you asking the right questions? And so just real quick, I want to go over these again. I want to encourage you to really look at how you view your kid's life. Are you raising them to be well-rounded, which sounds good, but that actually means dulled. That means we're not going to be very sharp in order to make a difference. We don't want to send our kids out sort of as blunt objects. In fact, Proverbs 127 says we want to send them out as arrows to launch and not be a part of the culture so much as to change it. So not well-rounded, but laser focused on God's kingdom, on the gospel for that matter. And the second one is we would like them to be well educated, but we really want them to be well equipped. So we want to go beyond knowledge to wisdom. And the third thing, career-minded is good, but we really want kids to be kingdom-minded. God may have something else in mind for them than just a specific career. So we always want to ask that question, what is it God is going to do in your life, not just now, but in the future? And we always want to aim our kids towards that, not like guard dogs where we're always barking at them to do the right thing, but as guardrails, allowing them to sort of bump. They figure out who God has called them to be, and we guide them towards that principle. Proverbs 22:6, we raise our children in the way they should go. That doesn't necessarily mean we give them the rules and they follow them later. It really means we guide them along the path, knowing that it's not going to be a perfect journey, but we're there to be that for them. So I hope that as parents, you can find some wisdom from this, and I look forward to unpacking these in future podcasts. And again, if you need anything or ever need to get in touch with us, or you have any tough parenting questions, please drop me a line. The link is here in the podcast. You guys have a great year, and I hope your kids grow in the Lord, and I hope you grow as parents.